This is Blue Reflection Tai. You might not have heard of this game before, but if you've heard of the Atelier series, it's made by the same developer. It shares a lot of the same DNA. We've got RPG combat, there's a party system, there's a ton of crafting. I'm playing this on the Japanese version. There isn't a timing difference or anything. I've just played it in Japanese more, and it's what I'm more comfortable with. I'll try to call out important things in case you can't read it. We just entered what's called a heartscape. These are dreamlike worlds that are constructed from the memories of each of the characters, and they'll be our dungeons for the game. They're where we'll fight enemies and boss fights, and there are also these item pickup spots where we're gathering crafting materials from. There are a lot of characters in this game, so I will try to briefly introduce them. The girl with the scythe is Owl. She's the main protagonist of the story. She's sort of an all-rounder character. She does both blue and orange damage, which makes her versatile. And then we have the girl with the sniper rifle, that's Kokoro. She's sort of our debuffer character, although in this run we will only have one debuff skill of hers, one that like reduces the accuracy of enemy attacks. And then lastly, we have Reina, and yes, she's fighting with a hula hoop. It's amazing. Her attack's not great. Instead, she has a lot of defense, which isn't helpful. However, she's our support character who will carry us through the game. Her key skill is that she can increase the amount of damage we do to enemy shields, which makes knocking down enemies way more feasible. So right here, there's a small little bug that we're abusing. If you're playing with keyboard controls and WASD, you can press 2 keys to move while you're on the balance beam, and that makes you move twice as fast. So I actually have both a controller and a keyboard for this speedrun. It's pretty silly. This is the crafting room. Crafting is a pretty important element of this speedrun in order to give us supporting items as well as progress through the story. We need to craft certain things. This is a chapter 7 speedrun. The full game has 11 chapters and takes around 4 hours to speedrun. Back when this game was first released, there was a streaming guideline that didn't allow you to stream past chapter 7. Thankfully, that streaming guideline has since been removed, but this still remains as the more popular category to speedrun, and it still shows off all the cool parts of the game. These are what are called talents. You require points, and you can learn passive skills for each of the characters. Some characters, like our fourth party member Yuki, can't be used in battle, but they still have talent skills which give passive bonuses to other party members. This game has side quests. Characters will give you certain tasks to do, and you'll get rewarded with talent points as well as other things. There are a couple side quests that I need to complete in order to progress the game, as they'll give me a crafting blueprint. For this tutorial side quest, there are 3 balloon cabbages that I need to pick up. What's kind of interesting is normally these item spots are randomized, but for this tutorial they are in fixed spots. I need to run to the docks, and the fastest way to get there is to warp to the infirmary and just walk the rest of the way. So this next section, it's raining, and they've discovered that there's a leak in the roof. So they're going to go into the hardscape and collect some materials they need to repair it. This game uses an ATB-like system for its combat. You have a menu with different attack skills, and each of these skills costs ether, which builds up over time. The amount of ether each character has is shown in the timeline on the bottom right of the screen. Most skills cost 1,000 ether, which is the first marker. Each character has a stat that controls how fast they generate ether, but what's fun is every time you attack, that speed increases. And right now, Ao's in this cool goth costume. That means she shifted into gear 3, which happens when your speed gets high enough. This lets you stockpile more ether. In gear 3, you can hold 3,000 ether at once, and then lets you queue 3 attacks at the same time. These enemies are very tricky to dodge. They run at you quickly. So what I'm going to do is start a fight with him, and when you initiate a fight it gives you 1,000 ether, which you need to run away immediately. So it can oftentimes be faster than letting the enemy catch you. So here is a mini-boss fight. This is supposed to be a tutorial that introduces a game mechanic called combo guard, but we will not be using that at all, so I will ignore it. Instead, we're going to knock down this enemy. So around the enemy, there's going to be this like colored cylinder that's transparent, and the more that I attack it, it will change to a purplish color and like sort of show it's cracked. That's symbolizing how much shield damage it's taken. If you break the enemy shield, it will be knocked down. On the timeline, there's also an icon for the enemy. They start on the far right and they slowly move to the left side. Once they reach the far left, they're going to do an attack. This is important because every time the enemy attacks, their shield health regenerates. In order to do a knockdown, I need to time all of my attacks to break the shield before the boss's icon reaches the left. So here we've knocked the enemy down, and they're at the far right of the timeline. They're not gaining any ether, and we can just sort of wail on them. Alright, coming up next is the stealth section. There are a bunch of enemies, and they have a red circle around them, which if you are inside that circle, you get caught and warp back to the beginning of the area. I have to do this tutorial and one stealth side quest, so it's not a huge part of the run, but they can lose a lot of time if you mess up. So here's a really quick trick. You'll see the enemy circle is right there, but I pick up the item and run right through it. That's because when you pick up item spots, they give you a small window in invincibility frames, and I can abuse that to run right through the enemy. So we're in this area because this is where the materials we need to repair the roof are, and there's 3 of them. And this whole section is on a global cycle, so I need to not dilly-dally. So normally you could run along the ground and sort of sneak past. There's a really huge enemy with a very large sight circle, but if you get caught by him, it wastes around 40 seconds. So I am taking a slightly slower but more consistent route above where I won't get caught. This is the final item we need to collect. And then we are crafting the roof repair kit. So throughout this game, there are a couple things we'll just have to craft or else the story cannot proceed. So it's very important that I keep track of which items I'm picking up. Moving on to Chapter 1, this is where we are going to actually complete Kokoro's Heartscape. Because this is like an early state of the game, I can't actually leave and re-enter at different rooms of this Heartscape, so I just need to run through it all in one go. And you'll see that I'm not going to fight any enemies because of that, as there's not an easy way to heal. So there are two different types of item pickups. These gold ones will give you the same item but multiple copies of them, and then the white ones only give you one. Attacks can have attributes associated with them, and enemies can be weak to this attribute or resist them. These attributes have names, but I've forgotten them. Thankfully, they are color-coded, so I will refer to them by their color. And each character tends to specialize in one attribute. So Kokoro does orange damage skills, Vena has red damage skills, and Owl has blue damage skills, though she can learn an orange one later in the game, which is helpful. In order to progress, there's this fog blocking the way, and we need to go to the other half of the area and turn on some lanterns. Heartscapes are split up into separate rooms that are called layers, and the item pickup spots have a different set of items depending on the layer that you're in. In this layer, I'm looking for an item called Rainbow Corn. I need 3 of them in order to complete a side quest for Kokoro, and that'll give me enough points to learn a talent skill in Chapter 2. I just picked up a recipe for yogurt. That's an item that lets me increase a character's defense. This game is really funny, and it doesn't let you revive characters unless you get some really late game options that aren't accessible in this kind of speedrun. So keeping your characters healthy and alive is an important part of the combat. In addition to Rainbow Corn, I'm also looking for textiles and wood materials. I also need to craft a lot of sandwiches, which are a basic healing item. So as characters attack more, their speed increases, and as their speed increases, their gear increases. When you get to different gears, the skills you have available to use change. Mostly what this means is that your attacks are upgraded and do more damage, but you can actually lose access to some skills as well. So it's something I need to be constantly aware of through the run.
何これ何これ何かに使えそう
The third layer has a specific item I want to pick up multiple copies of, the diamond fruit. This will be used to craft coffee later. So I haven't picked up this item yet, and the game wants to prioritize items you haven't picked up. So I'm going for the gold item spot first, which if I got lucky, which I didn't, it would have given me 2 diamond fruits. They can also give 3. Normally there's a gold spot in this back section, but it did not want to spawn it this time. So I currently only have 1 diamond fruit. There's just a ton of enemies in this section, and these floating heads chase after you. So it can be pretty tricky to get through here without starting a fight. Boss fights are where Reina truly shines. One of her support skills doubles the damage that party members do to enemies' shields. And my strategy for this fight is we're just going to chain knockdowns over and over again so he can't attack us at all. Starting off, Reina's going to cast that skill Breeze to Mare. Defaults on whoever's in the center slot, so it's just going on all. Then all and Kokoro are going to both attack once. That will bump everyone up to gear 2. And I'm going to build up to 2000 ether so I can queue a lot of attacks at once and knock them down. Kokoro, however, I'm going to continue attacking at 1000 ether because I want her to get to gear 3. First knockdown, I'm going to continue building up to 2000 ether because he doesn't stay knocked down for very long. But now that Kokoro is in gear 3, one of her skills gives orange damage weakness to an enemy. We're going to use that to increase the amount of damage that she's able to do. When you hit an enemy's weakness, it also bumps them back on the timeline, like that. So it gives you a slight bit more leniency in knocking down. What's funny is there's actually a knockdown tutorial during this fight, but we completely skip it because we knock him down too quickly. This introduces the date mechanic, where you can go on an adventure with one of your party members and walk around the school and hold hands or something. Alright, Kokoro is like 3 meters away from us, so naturally we're going to pull out our phone and text her. When you're starting a quest for someone, if you talk to them directly, you can't skip through their test. text, but if you use the phone, you can quickly mash through it. You can see how slow this text goes when you can't mash through it. So we turned in the 3 rainbow corn that we were collecting, and this gives us a couple talent points, which allow us to get another passive skill in Chapter 2. Here I'm crafting a wood plank. This will be used to build what is called a facility. There's small structures you can build around the school, and some of them have passive like effects that you can turn on or off. Because you can toggle them, they tend to be a double-edged sword. Like, they give you some bonus but also some debuff. This one doesn't. It just gives us a place for a character to have a date. So by building this facility, we caused another character to just materialize out of thin air. That is going to be our new party member, Shiho. So we have another tutorial date with her, but this one introduces the second part of the date mechanic, where there will be a cutscene that you can't skip, and you have to select certain choices during it. Depending on the choices you select, you will get what's called a fragment that you can equip, and will give you a passive bonus as well. The fragment you get is determined by whether the majority of the choices you picked were the top option or the bottom option. So here I'm going to pick the top option ones, but the first one I picked bottom because the dialogue takes less time. I would describe this game as a masher's game because of these unskippable cutscenes. So this tutorial forces me to equip this fragment on all. It just slightly increases your attack. It's not a huge deal. So again, Yuki is like right there, but we're just going to text her again because it's faster. Yuki actually ends up being a pretty important part of the route because she has a set of talent skills that increases the starting ether speed of your other party members. So by doing this date, we'll get talent points and we can start unlocking those skills. If you reach a certain threshold of starting ether speed, you can start in gear 2, which means you're doing more damage, but you can also stockpile 2,000 ether right at the start. And that'll be very important for the boss fight of this chapter. I want to get at least 2 characters that start in gear 2 for that. We're also going to start a quest of hers to build a facility. And I currently don't have the materials I need to, but we'll get back to it later. This is a tutorial that's introducing the squads that you can use when crafting items. Depending on the characters you select, you get different passive bonuses, but the default one gives you like small HP regeneration, which is pretty useful, so I will be using that one the entire run. I also need to craft coffee for a facility later. This is where the diamond fruits that I was looking for came in handy, but I only picked up 1, so now I have 0, and I want to craft more later. Alright, jumping into Shiho's Heartscape, we get a tutorial battle that sort of introduces her. Also, because we have more than 3 party members, we have a support party slot that can use items or swap in with a party member. Shiho is sort of a healer. Her heal skill is better than Reina's at least, but her damage dealt is quite good, and she has purple element damage, which is helpful in this chapter. Apart from the healing skill, she also has one skill where she can donate ether to another party member, which is used a lot later. And she has a skill that can remove status elements, which is very important because there are some pretty bad status elements that shut down your team. Okay, Reina's out of the party, Shio's in the party, and we're going to start unlocking some talent skills. Kokoro is getting plus 10 ether speed, and then we're learning one of Yuki's skills, which gives Owl plus 30 ether speed. The plus 30 is enough to bump Owl into gear 2 at the start, but Kokoro is still 10 points off. Alright, sand. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about sand. It's coarse, it's rough, I get it. But in Blue Reflection, we love sand. Sand is a critical crafting ingredient that I need to progress through the game. The only bad thing is that it has a tragically low drop rate. These enemies have a 15% chance of dropping it. There are different types of sand. It mostly depends on what Heartscape you're in. So in Shiho's Heartscape, these enemies will drop cool sand, and the ones in Kokoro's Heartscape will drop warm sand. The Chapter 1 boss fight has a 100% chance to drop cool sand, so I already have 1. And throughout the run, I will need a total of 3 cool sand. However, I can get away with 2 for this chapter, so I currently need 1 more drop. In addition to that, I am also looking for some hot spring water. I need 6 total in order to craft an important facility in Chapter 6. So I got a hot spring water, which they have a high chance of dropping, but not the sand. And this is where this game can be kind of cruel, because your run can get shut down by pretty bad RNG. Thankfully, because this is only a Chapter 7 speedrun, I do not need to collect all the items I would need to progress through the entire game, which cuts down significantly on the item farming. This is a tutorial introducing Kokoro's debuff skill. We blinded the enemy and now their accuracy is greatly reduced, so I don't have to worry about surviving in fights. You can see how many of these things I've fought and I still haven't gotten a single cool sand drop. Oh, there it is. So we're free to just move on to the next part of the run. I'm just fighting one more of these circlets in order to make sure I have enough hot spring water. Alright, this tutorial introduces a very important mechanic that's going to be the bread and butter for the rest of the boss fights. So as we attack this enemy, he's going to spawn these little crystal barriers in front of him. And normally there'll be 3. When you break all of them, it will trigger what's called an infight. We're going to transition into this 1v1 sort of mini battle thing. And the timeline will be of the enemy's attacks rather than us. So we can attack. Each skill has a cooldown timer. And we can also use a support skill, though most of them aren't very helpful. And when the enemy attacks, there are 2 things you can do. You can either dodge like this, or you can use a counterattack, which has a smaller timing window. Here, I missed the counterattack, but it shouldn't matter because this guy doesn't have that much health. If you look on the right side of the screen, there is a multiplier and combo counter. That is just a multiplicative bonus to our damage, and the max is 10, which drastically increases the amount of damage we're doing to bosses. What infights are is they're just a very quick way to build up that combo multiplier. One of the fastest ways to heal this game is to exit the dungeon and return to the school building. When you enter Heartscape, you're given the option to warp to the beginning of each layer, and I just entered the 2nd layer of this Heartscape, so I can return to the school, go back in, and I don't have to backtrack. Whoever breaks the last barrier is the one that starts the infight, and there are small differences between each of the party members. There's Kokoro and Reina, who are like rock bottom tier. You never want to use them because their intro and outro animations are very slow, and their attacks are slow, so they can't build up a good combo multiplier. So for this fight, I'm aiming for either Owl or Shiho to start this infight, and unfortunately the turn order gave me Shiho. And in the infight, you have the red bar at the top, that's the boss's HP, and you have the yellow bar on the bottom that's counting down, that's the timer for your infight, and when it hits 0, the infight ends. There's also the yellow diamond on the right that's slowly filling up as my combo gets higher. Once that's full, it means we're going to do a finisher attack. And the finisher will happen when either the timer reaches 0 or the boss's HP reaches 0. Every character also has a unique finisher animation, and Shio's is the fastest, it's 7 seconds. Alright, before I progress further in the dungeon, I really need to craft a facility. Here, I'm making sort of a route deviation from what I normally do. If you remember, I didn't get the diamond fruit drop in this area. These enemies will drop that, and they also have a higher chance of dropping worm sand, but the fights take a little bit longer, so it's sort of a gamble. I was also low on wood, which these will drop as well. And I got really lucky, there's one worm sand drop. At the end of this section, I need to have 2 warm sand and 2 cold sand. Which there's the second, so we're all good to go. I'm going to make a safety save after checking that I have enough materials to craft both of these. So this is another element of randomness. We're going to be exploiting what I can only think is a bug. When you craft items, there's a random chance that you get a bonus where the quantity of what you crafted is increased by 1. The bug is that when that happens, everything you craft after that will also have the quantity increased by 1. As long as you don't close out of the crafting menu. So here I am crafting yogurt 1 by 1, and there's the little jingle that plays when you get the bonus. So now I will get 2 of them. Normally when crafting, you can bundle them up all into a single crafting operation, but in order to take advantage of this bug, I'm crafting them 1 by 1, which essentially doubles how many items I'm crafting. In addition to the yogurt, I crafted coffee. That is an item that will cure a status ailment. Very helpful for Chapter 5 and beyond. And then the sandwiches are a healing item. With this squad, it gives it an HP regen as well. So they increase your party's survivability a lot. And then the 2 building materials I need for facilities are these wood planks, which I'll get 4 of, and then the sturdy cloths, which we'll also get 4. Unfortunately, I'm a little low on sandwiches, probably because I farmed those alternate enemies in Kokoro's Heartscape on the 3rd layer instead of the 1st layer. So I'm trying to craft some yogurt as a backup, which they don't really heal you, but they still give you that HP regen effect. And now we're going to craft that facility, the beach chair. This will complete Yuki's quest, which gives us talent points, and then also gives us access to another Yuki date, which gives us even more. But the main reason we're doing this is for the fragment. It adds a passive bonus of 10 ether speed at the start of a fight. Right now, Kokoro has one of her talent skills learned that gives her 10 ether speed, and she starts at 130, so she's at 140. With that equipped, she'll be at 150, which is enough to start fights at Gear 2. And I need that to complete Chapter 2. So here I need to select the bottom options. Again, equipping that fragment. From here, we're going to jump straight back into Shiho's Heartscape and continue on. The area we need to get to is in the middle of the first layer, but it's easier to get to there from the back than the front, so we enter the second layer and return here. Now that Kokoro is starting at gear 2, she has access to her skill that does orange damage weakness, which these enemies are weak to. This fight can be a little sketchy if we don't kill it quickly, so that improves our chances. First off, there's a cutscene trigger that I'm trying to squeeze past right there. In this layer, I am looking for an item spot to spawn near the boss. And unfortunately, I can't check it until I get around this corner, which is not the fastest thing. So there it is, that's good. We're going to set up a pretty major glitch. First involves picking up the item, and you need to pick up an item that you haven't picked up before because it brings up a pop-up that lets you open the database. So I open the database right after I run into the boss, triggering the enter fight cutscene, and then I wait for that cutscene to end and I exit out of it. So right now we have to defeat this mini-boss first before the glitch will happen. I'm going to use Kokoro's debuff skill again to cast blind on the strong enemy so that they don't destroy my party. And then I'm going to focus down the other enemy. Now we've completed the fight, the glitch is activated, and walls no longer exist. Normally you have to do a huge loop around this area to get to the boss, but I am running a straight line for them, which cuts off about a minute. Here we're swapping out Shiho for Reina. We're going into the Chapter 2 boss fight, and I need to tank an attack before I can start the knockdown. I'm healing my party members. I need about 30 HP, but these items have HP regeneration, and it takes a little bit for the boss's attack to go off, so I can regenerate that missing amount. What's key to this fight is I need 2 party members that start in gear 2, because this boss moves very fast and you don't have enough time to set up a knockdown if you have to waste an attack building up to gear 2. So like the last boss fight, Reina's going to use Brise du Mer to double one of my party members' shield damage. And we wait for this charge attack because I can't outspeed it. One of the nice things about Reina is another one of her attacks, Kuran Maran, is a very short attack animation, and it's useful to get that last hit in to knock down an enemy before they regen. So here I'm going to have Owl attack the shield last to start the infight. Her attack animation is lightning fast, and if I mash through it I can sneak in an extra attack which allows me to one cycle this boss. Is one of the reasons we use Owl over Shiho. Here I have to craft a required facility in order to progress the game, the cafe space. This requires 1 coffee, which is one of the reasons I've been trying to craft so much of them. I'm actually moving this 2 spaces to the right. This facility has a function where you can trade coins in exchange for coffee. So crafting that causes our next party member to materialize, Hinako. She is the protagonist of Blue Reflection 1, which was another turn-based RPG like this game. And we're going to complete some side quests that are very quick to do in the school. First, warping to the library for Shiho's one. And there's actually a golden spot in the library. You can pick up these golden spots in the school and they will give you sand drops. Unfortunately, that one gave me warm sand when I wanted cool sand, but it's okay. And then also going to the broadcast room completes Hinako's quest. We also have to complete a date for her to progress the game. This doesn't really give us anything besides Talon's points. That out of the way, we've unlocked the next Heartscape, Hinako's Heartscape, and we'll just jump straight in. Hinako's a pretty cool party member, and she's going to be our carry for the next bit of the run. Her gimmick is she's got to go fast. All her attacks have very high ether acceleration, and she can get to gear 3 in only 2 attacks, which you want to do because she gets access to her best skill, Reverse Bellier. It's sort of the bee's knees. It's just got a super short attack animation, and the faster Hinako is going, the more damage it does. You can often one-shot smaller enemies, and we're just gonna go ham with it. I'm throwing Hinako in the party. For now, Shiho is out still because the next boss has orange damage weakness, not purple. And we're teaching Ao Wind, which gives her an orange damage attack for that. We're also learning one of Yuki's talent skills that gives Hinako 30 ether. With that much ether, she'll start in gear 2, and she only needs 2 attacks to get into gear 3 with how fast she is. And we also learned Akebono for Shiho, which is a skill that removes status ailments. It's not too much of a problem here, but it will help in Chapter 5. Xia Versalier basically did that enemy's entire health bar. It had like the magic pixel left. Also in this layer, I am looking for some metal for crafting ingredients, and I want multiple of them, so I'm going to pick up these golden spots. And that one gave me 3, which is excellent. Again, exiting and entering to heal. And in this layer, I'm going to set up that walking through walls bug again. I have to make sure an item spawns near the boss, and unfortunately I can't check that until I run halfway through. You just have to dodge around these totally not Xerneas enemies. But the item is there in the distance, so we can do this. Again, I'm going to pick up an item I haven't seen before, which brings up a pop-up to open the database. And then if I close out of this database in the middle of the cutscene, after I finish the fight, the glitch will activate. So Xerneas is really, really mean. He's got a nasty AoE attack that will destroy me. So I'm going to use Kokuro's debuff skill to reduce his accuracy, and hopefully he will miss. And Ao's job is to use that orange damage skill she just learned, Wind, to do damage. Hinako is just going to spam a Versalier because that's the one thing she needs to do in the game. Just gonna clip through this wall here. And there's actually another mini-boss on this layer down there, but we're just gonna walk right past him. One of the problems with this bug is you can't easily fall down. So I'm gonna actually save and load again, which will cancel the bug, and I'll just fall down normally. These enemies don't move. I'm going to start the fight in stealth mode, which plays this animation and it makes the enemy very close to being knocked down. Should help me kill it faster. I should mention, you can knock down normal enemies, but only boss enemies give you the little barrier shields that let you start an infight. So after killing that enemy, it gives me the option to push these crystals to open bridges. I'll have to create another bridge after this before the boss fight. Alright, now we only have the boss left. This boss is weak to blue damage, so I'll be using Hinako and Owl. I didn't end up getting as many sandwiches as I would have preferably liked. So I'm trying to use the yogurts as much as possible to save sandwiches. Again, the yogurts only increase defense, but if I need like a small amount of health that I can use the regenerative effect, I don't need the instantaneous health that the sandwich gives. And this boss can be a little scary. He can cast our status ailment, the first boss that will do this. He will cast slow, which decreases the amount of ether that a character gains per second. Right here, Reina has it. It's that little like weight icon next to her. I'm using a coffee from the support character to heal it. The support character is nice because I don't have to waste one of my character's actions, but you can only use an item when the green circle around them fills up. So you have to time it correctly. It's not always the most convenient option. I'm setting up an infight and I'm going to use Hinako. And this will show where she truly shines, the infight parts. So she has a support skill that for the next 2 hits, she will gain 2 combo instead of 1. I opened with that support skill and now I'm just fighting this like normal. In infights, the max combo multiplier you can get is 10, and Hinako can easily reach that with her support skill. The only downside is she has a fairly long finisher, similar to Owl. In an ideal situation like this, I'm going to exit the infight when he has a little bit of health and finish off with a normal attack to get around that finisher animation. This chapter actually has a two-part boss fight. We return to the school building and we see that there's another boss enemy there that we have to take care of. This boss is fairly similar to the previous one. I'm going to do the same thing, increase knockdown damage. As both of these characters are hitting the boss's weakness, I'm bumping them back on the timeline, which gives me a larger window to get the knockdown. And then Hinako does the infight again. When it comes to infights, different bosses have different attack animations, which means you have to memorize all of them when doing counterattacks. This one's a fairly nice boss because it has a long lead-up time, and it's easy to guess when you should counter. Another small thing I'm doing is you can look on the command list in the left and see what your next skill is. There are two attacks that you get. One is a fast animation and the other is a slow animation. So I can make a call right before the boss is about to attack. I'm like, if I see that I have the short animation attack, I can squeeze that in before I have to counterattack. But if it's the long one, I know it's too risky. Brings us to the end of chapter 3. There is a gold spot that can spawn on the roof, which I was checking for, but it did not spawn. The last thing we have to do is we have to craft a crepe. We're using this crepe to lure out another character that's been hiding around the school building and stealing our food. It turns out it is Yuzu, who is another character from Blue Reflection 1. She's kind of a special character in that she's not playable, nor is she a support character. She's just here for lore reasons. Moving on to chapter 4. In order to gain access to the next hardscape, I need to craft the telescope, but this will be a little bit of an adventure because I need to craft 2 items for that, the ether alloy and glass pane, and I don't have the crafting recipes, and you get those by completing 2 side quests, so I'm setting those up right now. In addition, I will also be doing some stuff for Yuki because I want more talent points for her. I want to give 30 plus starting ether speed to Shiho because we'll be using her for the rest of the game. The enemies sort of increase in difficulty, and having a dedicated healer, someone who can get rid of those status ailments that shut you down, is very helpful. That was a quest to craft the firecrackers.
Let's go!
That is an item. I'll also be doing this date. I love this book. They just put the camera so close to it. This is another date where I'm specifically choosing stuff to save time. So I want the top options to give me a fragment, but here I choose the bottom option. This choice saves 5 seconds of cutscene dialogue. And that gives me another fragment, which increases ether starting speed as well.
目的地はとそれじゃ
So the first of the 2 quests I need to complete is this one for Shiho, where we're going to Kokoro's Heartscape. And it's a mandatory stealth section, wouldn't you know it? It also happens to be in the exact same area as the first one.
よいしょっと
First we have to go over to this side of the map. This stealth section is one of the more challenging ones, I would say. There's a ton of enemies in a very small enclosed space. They could have easily removed one and it would have been fine, but... Normally you would have to go through the crawl space and go around. But we're going to use a little bug here. Same as before, you pick up the item, which gives us a small amount of invincibility frames. And we can just walk through that enemy's sight area. The objective here is to light the 2 lanterns again. I'm making a safety save because it's very easy to get caught in the second part. Just gonna sneak behind this enemy. He turns around really fast, so you don't want to be on the wrong side of him. Luckily, I got a good pattern and was able to sneak through. It's sort of a miracle that I did this first try. In this next area, there's this dude moving really quickly at the start. I don't want to get hit by him, so I usually just hide behind that pod if he's being slow. And then we just have to run over here. And we're finally done with stealth sections. Hooray! Here I'm just spending everyone's talent points to give minor buffs like attack up, increase knockdown damage, ailment resistance, and again giving Shiho that plus 30 starting ether speed like the rest of my party members so she can start in gear 2, and also equipping that ether speed fragment on Shiho. The second quest we need to complete is we need to kill 3 specific enemies with Hinako in the party, the Sorrowful Persona. I'm specifically going to layer 3 for this because these enemy spawns have 2 of these enemies. In addition, I am also trying to get another sand drop. That's right, we're back. These enemies drop damp sand. And we need 3 throughout the course of the run. For these fights, I'm doing something special with Shiho. Well, she's dead, but normally she'd be casting one of her skills, Akatsuki, on Hinako, which donates some of her ether, basically. It depends on what gear you're in for the amount, between like 500 or 700 ether. These enemies, the best way to damage them is just reverse Spellier, which is why it makes sense to have Shiho give ether so we can just cast more of that instead of having Shiho attack when she doesn't do that much damage against them. So I've killed 3 of them completing the quest, but I'm going to fight one more encounter to hopefully get more damp sand drops.
仕掛けます。大丈夫ですか？いつでも行ける。大丈夫ですか？急いで回復を。いつでもやれます。大丈夫ですか？次はど行くよ。いつでも行ける。仕掛けます。大丈夫ですか？次はど行くよ。もっといけるよね。さあ、攻め時だ。行くよ。うん。次もこの調子でね。
Thankfully, I got really lucky, and all these fights gave me damp sand drops.
何を作ろう。今日はこれ
I'm
の
going to craft the telescope, but I made a small mistake here, in that I didn't turn in the quest
いっちゃやります
before
か。
coming here, so I don't actually have the recipe for the glass pane yet.
自信作です。何を作ろう。
You can warp to the floor the character's on, but you can't warp directly to them. Hinako is currently on the first floor, so she can either be cleaning the window, which is fast, but unfortunately she's in the second spot, the vending machine over here.
どれにしようかな。これにしよう。任せて。どれを使う？よーし。
I also have to make sure I keep one of the rare lenses and not use it as a glass material for that in order to craft the telescope here. I'm also moving this to the far right. This facility has a special effect in combat, and I want to enable that. It increases the amount of knockdown damage you do by 30%, but as a trade-off, also increases the amount of knockdown damage you take by 30%. Like enemies, player units can also get knocked down, and getting knocked down is pretty much the worst thing that can happen to you in this game. You lose all of your ether speed, you go back down to gear 1, and your party member can't move for a small amount of time. Basically, don't let it be you. Now that we've crafted the telescope, we can enter Reina's Heartscape. There's a specific item I need 2 of that's very important to progress the game. It is the colorful chalk. It doesn't drop on this layer, but what I'm doing is I'm picking up all of the items that can show up in layer 2 on this layer. So I'm aiming to pick up 6 white item spots. When I get to layer 2 eventually, that will narrow down the item pool, so that if I pick up only gold spots, there's a 1 in 3 chance instead of a 1 in 9 or whatever it is. Coming up to this mini-boss, the jelly skellies as I like to call them, they resist blue damage, so I took Hinako out of the party and put in Kokoro for that orange damage weakness. It is possible to walk through this crawl space if you could set up the wall collision bug, but that requires an item spawning in front of that boss, which doesn't always happen, and it's not a huge time loss if you don't get it. Here I was expecting an item to show up in this last bit, but it did not, so I had to backtrack a little. Alright, so that's the 6th item, which is all the items we can pick up on this first layer. The important item, the colorful chalk only spawns in the second and third layer. So I'm gonna only pick up golds on this layer. They don't have a 100% chance to spawn. And if I get unlucky, I need to pull 3 of them in order to get the chalk. The first one usually spawns across this gap next to the boulder. Which I did not get it from that pull. There's also a mini-boss here. It's the same as the last mini-boss we fought, except there's 2 enemies. And this guy, they have an AoE attack that can do a ton of damage. So the faster I can kill them, the faster, or the safer my team is. Now that we don't have to fight those enemies anymore, we can swap Hinako back in the party. We're also going to have Reina in, because we're going to do an infight. So you might be wondering why we're not doing the wall clip bug here. One of the problems with it is you can't change your vertical height easily. You sort of snap to the ground, but if there's no ground, you just walk at the same elevation. And this layer, you climb up a significant distance to where you can't really get to the end part of the layer. So another gold spot always spawns in this lake here. I guess it's more of a pond. And there is a colorful chalk. So we're set. We have to get 2 of those, and it's a pain to get 2 of the same item because it only prioritizes it when you haven't picked it up before. Alright, mini boss, fortress. This boss has a tendency to do 2 attacks. So see right here, his cursor on the timeline's just sort of chilling there. That means he's going to queue up 2 attacks back to back. So I have to wait until that second attack starts before I start my knockdown, or else his shield HP is just going to regen immediately and eat up one of my attacks. Continuing to use Hinako for the infight. This boss doesn't have that much HP, so I don't actually need to do the finisher. Unfortunately, I somehow missed the counter. It's preferable to miss the first counter in the infight because you can still build up a combo multiplier from that. But if you miss one in the middle, you get less of a total combo multiplier at the end of the fight. There's another mini boss before the final boss. And we're swapping Kokoro in so she can use her debuff skill to decrease the enemy's accuracy. Alright, let's talk about the boss, Naga. They're a very challenging fight because their infight has two different attack timings. One is very quick and hard to react to, and the other one is very delayed. I'm just making sure I'm healing my party for this. Also, like the fortress, this boss is going to start with the potential to do 2 attacks in a row. So my first move is I'm going to have my support slot use the firecracker. This will debuff the enemy's attack, and in the event that they do double attack, I'll be able to survive it. Yeah, waiting for that second attack to start up before using all my attacks. I'm living with like 14 HP in a dream. One trick you can do is you can sort of pause buffer, but unfortunately I paused the slightest bit too early to tell what attack he was going to do. That was the fast attack. Unfortunately, I was off my game and I didn't get 2 of the 3 counters. So what I'm opting to do here, if you try to do another infight, normally enemies spawn 3 barriers, but after you knock them down once, they will spawn 1 more. And it's really hard to kill 4 barriers before they recover from knockdown. So I'm doing a strategy where I will not start an infight and instead I will keep knocking him down and just doing normal attacks to build my combo multiplier. It definitely loses time over just getting the infight the first time, but it can safely complete the fight at the very least. And that's chapter 4 done. Chapter 5 has a bit of a backtrack section at the start of it before we can go to the next hardscape. The first thing I'm going to do is craft a facility in the shooting gallery, which will give us temporary access to it. We'll also bring our next party member into existence, Kirada. She's from Sun or something, it's not that important. And she's in a coma, which we need to craft some spirit medicine to revive her. And this involves going to each of the previous hardscapes we've done and collecting a special fragments there. So first I'm crafting this rainbow paint, and that completes a side quest for Yuki, which is more talent points, but also I need that paint can for the shooting gallery. Yeah, we get bumped out of it. And unfortunately, crafting the spirit medicine requires 3 types of sand. So in this run, I only had 2 of the total 3 cool sands I need. And I also need the newest type of sand, sharp sand. The way the school spa works is it's going to prioritize sand I haven't collected yet, and I don't have any sharp sand currently. So if I ever see a gold spot there, it'll give me that. And my strategy in this section is to continually refresh the school by going in and out of the hardscape. It refreshes every 2 times you do that, and then checking those golden item spots again. If I'm lucky, I don't have to reset it too many times and I don't lose a lot of time, but it can be very mean. I was also in vain trying to pick up some ingredients to craft more sandwiches because I am very low. So first I go to the library, which right off the bat, there's a gold spot, hooray. You can either spawn in the library, on the desk in the hallway, or on the roof. Here I am opting to get the last cool sand I need from enemies. I'm fighting these enemies in the 3rd layer because they have a slightly higher percent chance to drop the item than the circlets I was fighting back in chapter 2. Now that I'm later in the game and my stats are better, I can kill these enemies faster. Also, swapping Reina out because her attack isn't the best, and I just want to one-shot these enemies if possible. The Luke over there, the like tall guy, has a 40% chance to drop, but there isn't an encounter that has 2 of him, So this one that has him and a circlet is probably one of the better odds one, but it's not as good as the two shadow or sorrowful personas that were in Hinako's Heartscape.
負けません。よし、やるよ。や。仕掛けます。次はどうしよう。うん。次もこの調子で。ね。
Did not get our sand, so we have to reload the area.
行き先はどうしよう。それじゃあ。ブオン。戦闘開始。攻め時だね。はっ。よし。いつでもやれます。次はどうしよう。はっ。 うん、次もこの調子でね。私頑張ります。攻め時だね。
When you're trying to optimize just getting a singular drop from a group of multiple enemies, you start getting into some fun statistics maths using binomial probability formulas and stuff. I still feel like I don't have the best grasp of it, but I've determined that fighting multiple enemies, even at 25%, is better than fighting one 40% enemy.
OK。 どれにしよう。材料は足りてるかな。なんかどれよし。
Here I'm crafting a sandwich again because I'm low. Unfortunately, I didn't get lucky with a double one, so. And I do have all the sand I need to craft the spirit remedy.
できた。
Now that Kirara is recovered, we can go complete the Heartscape properly. There aren't any mini-bosses on the first layer, so it's pretty chill. I am going around picking up all these items because I need a fair bit to craft some facilities at the start of Chapter 6. You have to make an upgrade for the pool, you have to make some curry, and you also have to make like a bamboo wishing tree. Which a lot of those ingredients are here. I specifically want to avoid picking up items in the second layer because I need to keep some items undiscovered so I can use the wall clip glitch in the third layer. Chapter 5 introduces a pretty big jump to the difficulty curve, I would say. The big theme of this chapter is all the enemies have a chance to cast slow and paralysis on you. And if you aren't gaining ether, you can't attack. But also, it makes you more susceptible to being knocked down, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the worst thing that can possibly happen, and you will probably die after it. I had some extra Yuki points from completing that quest with the rainbow paint, and I used it to give Hinako +7 attack. So right now she's our primarily damage dealer for boss fights. I want to make sure that I get the debuff skill on this enemy because they also have a very damaging move, and if I get hit with 2 of them, it's over. So right here, Shiho with the little squiggly line debuff icon, she's paralyzed. Her icon is not moving at all. Shiho in particular is a bad person to get paralyzed because she has the skill that lets you cure status ailments. In that instance, I opted to just let it run out, but here I am using her skill to cure Hinako, but then Shiho just died. This is gonna be fine. Also, I am using the option to have your support slot person swap out with a party member, which right now one of them is dead, so they're not doing anything. Although the fight might be over before they get a chance to attack. Yeah, the fights in here will start actually murdering your party members. Oh, I love this bit of movement here. There's an enemy that's going to chase after me and block the way. But if you just go behind this lantern, it loses sight of you and it gets confused and will no longer chase you. We're coming up on one of the hardest mini-bosses in the run, and we're only on chapter 5 of 7. This will be Gibul, who... he just does a lot of damage and can paralyze you, and it's tricky to knock him down. In chapter 5, your speed isn't the greatest compared to the late game. You kind of have to work hard to fit those attacks in before the enemy's next move. This guy definitely walled me in my casual playthrough before I understood how the game mechanics fully worked. So my opening play will change depending on what he does. He has the option of using 2 attacks, which he didn't. He used a relatively safe move where he just clears debuffs on himself. And that gives me an opportunity to throw the firecracker instead of having to use a coffee or something to recover paralysis. I'm waiting for his second move, and he gave me a really nice pattern. Safe move twice in a row. So we're just gonna go straight for the knockdown. Overall, a very clean fight. Alright, this layer also has a very hard mini boss fight. There's 3 enemies and they're basically just as mean as Gibul. I need to pick up some medicinal herbs as well, which luckily was the first pick. What I usually do is I have 3 undiscovered items, so I pick up 2, and I'm gonna set up that glitch again to walk through walls. Also, this enemy, the hallway is so tight, it's practically impossible to get around him without running away from a fight. We're actually gonna put all in because we just need the speed. Right now, Kokoro doesn't have the plus 30 Yuki like ether speed skill, and she's still relying on the fragment, except we gave the fragment to other party members, so she won't actually start in gear 2. Setting up the glitch again. These enemies are also very prone to using multi-hit attacks, and those will just single down and a single party member and they will die. Ideally, I can get a knockdown on one of them, which lets me eliminate them. Here he's charging up for the double hit. Both of those fights went very well. Trust me, they can go very poorly. And we're just gonna walk over through here, and we're behind the boss area. Trying to make sure I can walk into bounds properly. And one of the reasons why you want sandwiches over yogurt is so you can fully heal yourself before a boss fight, since you need to save before it, and if you exit and re-enter, you'll have to backtrack again. This guy has a lot of shield. For all the fights up to this point, I've only been casting Breeze to Mare on one party member, and that's been enough to break their shield. But in this one, I'm going to have to cast it on both Hinako and Shiho, which requires a little more time to set up. And there's the immediate paralysis. I can't use the skill that cures the status ailment until I'm in gear 3, so I set up with Akatsuki and then use Akebono. The double paralysis. We're set up, we just gotta wait for him to go, so we have the full amount of time. And sort of emergency healing Rena so she doesn't die. Alright, moving on to chapter 6. This chapter has a fair bit of things we need to craft in order to access the next Heartscape. If you remember back in chapter 2, we were trying to get all that hot spring water. Well, this is where it comes in handy. Basically, we're going to try and make our pool into a hot spring for fun. And we need to craft this water heater. And there's also a mural.
どれにしようかな。材料は足りてる。どれよーし。
And we use these and the other 5 hot spring water in order to craft the pool facility.
何を作ろうかな。映える配置はっと。
And then in addition, we need to craft another facility. It's like a bamboo tree that you put wishes on for Tanabata. We actually want to activate the effect on this facility, so I am placing it in an area that I can quickly get to when I warp to the courtyard. This effect increases the amount of damage you do if an enemy is weak to your attack's element, but it also increases the amount of damage you take to elements you're weak to. For the most part, that's not a huge deal. And then the last thing we need to craft is some curry. Both this and the wishing tree are related to the anime Blue Reflection Ray, which links to our new characters that are showing up. Hiori, who will be our party member, and then there will be Mio, who's just a support character. So with those crafted, we can go into the Heartscape. Hiori is kind of the best. Her attack stat is just insane. It's way higher than any of other units in the game. And she also does 2 types of damage. She does purple and green. And both of her attack skills have gimmicks to them. She has a green skill where if you defeat an enemy with it, it gives you almost 1,000 ether. So basically you get a free turn again. And then her purple damaging skill adds way more knockback than usual. So you can use it to sort of juggle the enemy back and knock them down easier. Both of those get used a lot. So here, we're going to make our new party with Shiho, Hinako, and Hiori as our main damage dealer. And then we're going to slap our ether speed fragments on her. They tried to balance her a little bit because she does so much damage, and that all of her skills' ether acceleration is pretty low. But by just using our ether fragments, we can get her to start in like gear 2, gear 3, and that low ether acceleration doesn't matter as much. I'm picking up item spots here, trying to get the light seed, which I just picked up. That's the only item I need on this layer. And then we get a forced fight here. What I'm going to try and set up is using that green attack skill on the bear, which I got there. And so I got the 1000 ether again, I can immediately act. And then this ghost guy is weak to purple damage, so both Shiho and Hiori can do damage against it. Unfortunately, this guy does a lot of damage, so it's not uncommon for either Shiho or Hinako to die. So there was a cutscene sequence that we skipped, and we got Mio. She was found collapsed on the ground. We brought her back to the school. But now we're back at the beginning, and we just have to walk through this layer again. In the second layer, this whole area is governed by this sort of puzzle with these traffic sign switches. Each of them corresponds to these colored planks across the buildings, and it makes some of them appear and some of them disappear. In this layer, I'm looking for the crystal, which I just picked up, so I don't need to worry about anything else. This hardscape is shorter than the rest. It only has 2 layers, so at the end of this one will be the boss. And there's a mini-boss. We can't proceed to the second half of this area yet, but I want to fight him now so that I can warp out and heal without having to backtrack. Also, because I got lucky when crafting the curry and got 2 of them, I used the second copy here. Like the previous fight, I'm going to have Hiori do the last hit on these teddy bears, hopefully, or to get free ether. So both Hinako and Shiho are going to attack the bears once to put them into killing range. Although I think I mismenued there, so Hiori didn't attack the teddy bear. And the curry increases Hiori's attack, which allows us to finish this fight a little bit faster, because he's just doing so much damage. The longer I'm in that fight, the more likely people are to die. Up here is a crafting recipe for the reinforced block. I will need that in Chapter 7 to craft the last facility I need. And then over here, there's this railing that we can push down and it makes a ladder. So the puzzle's been pretty straightforward here. You just turn on the switches and it makes the path. But right now we can't progress. So what we're going to actually do is turn these switches off. And because we lowered that ladder, which made a shortcut back to where we previously were, we can get to where the mini-boss was without having to take the planks that were previously set. I'm going to hit these switches, and I'm going to exit and re-enter the hardscape. One, to heal, but also I need to backtrack back to that ladder I pushed down, and doing it here cuts down on that backtrack movement by maybe 30 seconds. Unfortunately, this guy's camping the top of the ladder like a jerk. When I'm crossing these planks, I have to make sure that the enemy on the other side isn't going to block me. Sometimes it will get like pushed through them when you escape from a fight, but other times they will just form a wall and you can't walk past them, and you're just forced to lose a bunch of time waiting for them to move away. So now it's just a straight shot over to the boss. We'll be keeping the same team. I'm not going to use Reina for the knockdown. In addition, I'm also going to use the curry. You're forced to craft it for story progression, but you might as well use it anyway. So this is the other fight that I intend to use it on. And I'm making a safety save because this is probably the most challenging fight in the run, and it can go wrong very easily. This boss is special because there are two enemies in the boss fight. We have the left and the right. The left one is weak to green damage, and what he mostly does is cast debuff spells and cure status ailments on the right guy. This includes curing the knockdown status ailment, so if you don't time your knockdown correctly, all your work goes to waste. But his main gimmick is he's going to try and cast the slow status ailment on all three of the party members. It's a small chance of happening, but if you get unlucky, it can just completely destroy the fight. So all three of my party members just queued up 2 attacks in order to knock down the boss. And if I'm fast enough, I can get the knockdown. But if you see right here, the left guy just cast slow on all of my party members. It's the dumbbell status icon. And that slowed me down just enough to where I couldn't break the 3rd barrier in time. So unfortunately, that forces a reset. There's not much I can do, and it's really hard to recover that fight when you have to cure 3 status ailments. When it comes to resetting fights in this game, there isn't really a way to exit a battle when you're in the game, so the fastest way is to just press Alt F4. Alright, take 2. One of the nice things that Hiori does that allows me to sort of avoid using Reina for a knockdown is that purple damage skill she has, like I mentioned earlier. It does more knockback on the timeline than normal attacks do. It gives me more time to deal damage to the enemy's shield before their health will regen. This time I didn't get slowed, and I'm able to get all 3 of my attacks off, break the barrier. We are starting infight with Hiori rather than Hinako. Hiori is just insane. Like, she doesn't have the combo support skill gimmick like Hinako, but she still just does more damage anyway. In addition, your other party members in the fight also have a random chance of casting support skills. You'll see a little text in the top left. And Hinako can still cast that skill on Hiori. Another thing that makes Hiori more desirable is their finisher animation is way faster. It's only 7 seconds. When you complete one infight, you exit and you still keep some of your combo multiplier. Right now I was at like 6.25. And that's enough for me to just chip down this guy. What I'm going to have is Shiho will be donating her ether to Hiori so she can use her green damage skill, which this enemy is weak to. And I'll already use it more frequently, and then Hinako just attacks normally. And this is the final chapter of this run, chapter 7. We have some story progression cutscenes to get through before accessing the dungeon again. First, we'll be required to craft the sunflower bed. This is a very important facility. It has an effect where it increases everyone's ether speed at the start of fights by 50. Right now, everyone's at like 150, which allows them to start at gear 2. But with another 50, that bumps them up to starting at gear 3. And basically, right now in the game, there are gears past gear 3, but gear 3 is the cap. So that's as fast as I can go. I don't really have to worry about ether acceleration anymore. It does have a downside. It decreases everyone's ether acceleration as well. But in a speedrun context, I'm just going to be defeating all these enemies as fast as possible, so I won't really worry. It's mostly at the beginning of fights when you're trying to knock down enemies that you need all that ether speed. And then once you start the infight, who cares? So crafting the sunflower bed makes our final character appear, Uda. She's also from the anime. And she's sort of a villain character, but like everyone else, she doesn't have her memories, so she doesn't remember being evil, which puts her in a weird position. She's also a support character. Hiori is going to be our last playable unit. So here I'm turning on that effect. And then watching more cutscenes. And we can finally just go in. This hardscape is one of the longer hardscapes in that it has 4 layers, but luckily we don't actually complete the hardscape in this chapter. We only have to do the first 3. This section is a bit unique because there is a roadblock if I were to go to the left, which I need to go to get to layer 2. And in order to clear that roadblock, I need to watch all of these key cutscenes, and one of them is way back here. So I'm going to walk back here, watch the cutscene, and then warp back to the entrance of the hardscape to cut down on backtracking. This guy has a really chonky hitbox, and it's hard to get around him, so I like just starting a fight and running away. Alright, with that out of the way, we can go to the left path now. In the next layer, there's going to be a mini-boss fight right at the start, and I'm going to set up another out-of-bounds glitch. Thankfully there's an item spot that's usually there. These guys, they just do a ton of damage, and there's 3 of them, so it's very likely your characters can get knocked down, which I want to avoid at all costs. So my strategy for the fight is to just have everyone attack as soon as they get 1000 ether, so that they're always regenerating their shield HP. So setting up that by opening the database screen and then starting the fight. So everyone's in gear 3. Remember how I said they also lose ether acceleration? Every time they attack, they're also gonna like drop out of gear 3. You'll hear like a glass shattering effect and they'll lose their cool costume. Shiho just died, which is not ideal, but I can still win the fight without her. We're just gonna walk right through this cliff face. This skip doesn't, you know, get around a lot of movement, but it does save us having to crawl through a crawl space, which is a decent amount of time. Also, we don't have to jump up this cliff. So I said I couldn't like climb up a lot of elevation. In fact, I dropped down a bit there, but the cutscene moves me up here. And the funny thing is after watching that cutscene, you're just sort of frozen in place. But I figured out you can open the phone menu and close it, and that restores you back to your normal gameplay mode, and you can move around again. In this layer, we need to go over to this orchard, pick up the fruits, and then look at the sunflower thing to play a cutscene, and that allows us to progress to the other part of the layer. So again, I'm going to have warp back to the entrance and re-enter again. This miniboss is Dandelion. He can either do a single attack or 2 attacks back to back, and which one he chooses will determine what adjustment I have to make to the fight. There he only did 1, which is a little bit harder. Here I'm going to abuse the extra knockback from hinako or hiori's skill. So I only did 1 attack with her instead of 2 like the other party members, so that when the boss starts moving again, I get more time of its knockback almost the entire timeline. If he did 2 attacks, I could just have everyone Q3, and that would be enough time to get those off. This is the 3rd layer, and at the end of it will be the last boss I have to fight. I didn't really take that much damage from the previous fight, so I didn't need to exit and enter. There's actually a cutscene here, but if I just move straight down after the zipline, I can skip the trigger just barely. And then I just need to dodge past these little snake dudes. There are 2 paths in this layer, but if you take the right path, there's an enemy blocking the ladder up that you can't get around. You would think normally, because in a normal run, you have to go through this area multiple times. You'd be like, oh, I'll just kill him once, and then it'll make the movement faster for the 2nd time. But you would be wrong, because the dumb boss respawns, so what is the point? I'll never know. Alright, for the last boss, we're going to throw Reina back in. They're starting to get to a point where we can't knock him down quickly without that knockdown boost buff. This guy also has a particularly strong AoE attack, and if one of my party members die, it depends on which one. It makes this fight a little bit more challenging. In order for the strat to work, I actually have to cast knockdown boost on both of my other party members, shiho and hiori. So Reina dies like I expected her to. I'm gonna quickly swap Hinako out, and the timing that this works out just enough that Hinako's in there quick enough in order to break the barrier before they recover from knockdown. So there, Hinako cast the combo doubler bonus effect, which means I'll actually be able to attack this boss down to the finisher. We're nearing the end of the run. There are a couple more cutscenes left before timing stops. In this final part, there is a section where you're allowed to consult with one of your members in the school, and each of them has a different unique cutscene. I'm specifically going to pick Hinako because the distance between the warp point and her is very small. And then after these cutscenes, we'll be done because the only thing left before triggering Chapter 8 is talking to someone